All right, guys. Our next guest took on Israel Adesanya at the monumental and milestone UFC 243 in Melbourne, Australia, just over 2 weeks ago when he headlined the most attended UFC event in history. He then went on to PAX to kick some ass in the video game arena, the former champion, but still the face of Australian MMA, the Reaper himself, Rob Whittaker, joins us here on the show ahead of this monstrous tour that he's about to take across Australia. Thank you so much for joining us, Rob. How are you this morning?
Very good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mentioned it in the intro, so we want to get a quick info sesh from you on this first of all. PAX in Melbourne, you looked like you had the best time in the world over there when you were doing it. Break it down for us just quickly. How was it over there? We see you took a mate over, and it just looked like a great time.
Yeah, obviously, the week after the fight, I was a little disappointed. I think that's pretty normal. So it was good to be able to leave the scene. Going to PAX, like I went to PAX last year, and I really enjoyed it. It blew me away with the culture, and honestly, it's like thousands upon thousands of adults that are acting like kids on Christmas. It's amazing, and everybody's excited for the same thing. And honestly, the culture and atmosphere blew me away. And I saw a lot of good games, played a lot of good games, met a lot of cool people, and yeah, I really just had a good time.
Any games that stand out for you? I know you're a fan of all the Bethesda games, and I think Elder Scrolls. Anything that stood out for you?
Yeah, the new Doom game is coming out next year, and it is unreal. It is so fast-paced, and just there's stuff everywhere. It is amazing. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet.
Dude, that's awesome. I remember being in high school and playing Doom, and it's good to see that Doom is still sort of going strong. I wonder, man, like, when it comes to video games, like, we've come a long day since, like, Pong and all that basic stuff back in the day. How much does something like this help you, like, in tough times, in dealing with, stresses and stuff like that, where you can just kind of escape into a world, especially after UFC 243, when you kind of just take a break from everything and sort of de-stress for yourself?
Yeah, playing video games is massive for me because it's exactly as you said. I use it as an escape because I have a very high pressure job.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of stresses involved with it. So it's good to be able to just leave the world, in a sense, and just jump into a game. And also because of the time restraints of having to work so many times and so much, like a lot of training and then working on the gyms and the podcast, there isn't a lot of time to go see my friends. So I see my friends online, jump on over night time. We all play together, talk together, and then that's my socializing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me, I had a tough day the other day, and I pulled out the Super Nintendo and played Super Smash Brothers, and I just got even more frustrated because I forgot how tough those damn games were back in the day when we were younger. The kids don't know how easy they have it these days. Tell me, Rob, though, I mean, outside of that, what has life been like since UFC 243 for you? How have you been able to sort of deal with the loss, and sort of what's the reception been from the fans and from sort of the people that you've been dealing with?
The reception's been absolutely great. It's been great. It is what it is, and obviously I think I guess the two biggest emotions that I have coming off the fight is just, disappointed, but also excited. They're the two biggest directions I'm heading because, I'm disappointed to have got the loss. I think obviously it's easy to look reflectively and see the fight from the outside and look at things you could have done differently. But I'm excited for what this will turn me into because I've lost before. Everybody loses. They do. And, on the back of my losses before, I came back much, much better. So I really do look forward for what the future brings.
I think we can sort of see that excitement, right? Because one thing we noticed is right after the fight, you jumped straight back on the horse. You were doing Grange TV, you're doing other interviews. We see some fighters who kind of take a bit of time to just kind of disappear, which is completely understandable. But it's almost like you faced this loss, completely head on. You even came out and did the post-fight interview immediately afterwards, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing though. Like, I'm prepared. You have to be prepared to lose. You have to, especially like I know I'm prepared to lose because I have lost before. There is no man out there that is unbeatable. Like, regardless of what anybody says, it's coming for you. You will lose. You're going to lose one day. The thing is, it's just not getting consumed by winning or losing. You know, they're not the be all end all. It's about doing the right things leading up to the event. And if you're doing the right things, if you're stacking the chips in your favor, you'll win much more times than you lose.
Mm. I mean, obviously, being a champion, so many bonuses. You know, you make the big money. You're kind of the guy in town that everybody talks about, that everybody focuses on, that everybody aims for. But is there also sort of a good thing about not having the belt at the moment and just being able to sort of chill out and focus on what's next and sort of have this new chapter in your journey? Is there something good about that as well in your mind?
100%. You know, coming off the fight, I can look at the holes my game had. I can look at changing things up. I can be inventive. I can be creative. The thing is, when like the belt, in a way, it kind of traps you. It traps you in a way that like things are working for you, so you don't really want to mix them up too much. And being free of that, I can change things up. I can try new things. I can try things that I didn't have the confidence to do before because what was working was working. And honestly, like me and my team, we were obviously gutted. Yeah, I think that's very normal. There'd be something wrong with me if I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I'm so excited for this for the next block.
And is it kind of funny now not being in that position where everybody's sort of gunning for you? Everybody's sort of talking about, oh, we want to beat Rob. Oh, this is how I'm going to beat Rob. Every other interview sort of being about how people are going to beat you and how people are gunning to beat you up and stuff. And now just being able to chill out and not have to deal with that for a little bit.
I never really thought about it too much, to be honest. It's just one of those things. Like, it's part of the game. If you're in the fight world and you're halfway any good at it, you're gonna have people gunning for you, and you're gonna be gunning for other people. I battled my way up to the top before, and I have a lot of mileage left on this old body, and I can do it again.
Old body, Rob. You're younger than us. Come on, man. I was going to say, how many times have you watched the fight back since? And, if we were going to sort of take a look back on it, what would you say sort of didn't go to plan that night or didn't go right that night?
I got hit on the chin.
Yeah.
I guess, that would have to be the most standout thing that happened. But honestly, everything leading into the fight was perfect. It was honestly the best I've ever been. Looking back, there were some things like, if I could tell myself younger me to do something different, I would. But in saying that, if I could tell younger me to invest in Apple, I would also do that.
Yeah.
So like it's one of those things, like talking about things in the history is all well and good, but it doesn't do anything. All I can do now is be critical of myself. Sometimes it hurts. I'm going to be critical of myself. I'm going to get back to work, and I'm going to fill in some of these holes that I saw myself, and just get much, much better.
I am curious though, what were some of the things that you noticed, sort of that you the younger you could have sort of fixed on, and did anything surprise you during the fight? Because I imagine you guys went in there with a game plan. Was there anything that surprised you?
No, not really. Like, obviously getting hit.
Yeah.
Because if I wasn't surprised, I shouldn't have got hit. But honestly, hats off to him. It's just, we both went in there, we both went at each other, we both scrapped, and I got clipped and went down. That's just the game. That's just how it is.
In hindsight, I feel like I know the answer, but I have to ask anyway. In hindsight, would you have rather take another fight before coming back? Because obviously a big talking point was, the layoff and the potential cage rust. Do you think that was any factor at all on the night?
Maybe. It's hard to say. A lot of questions leading up to the fight were about pressures and about, does this affect you or does that affect you? The last two fights in Australia have been, have fallen through. You haven't fought for this long. And, as a fighter, like, my response is going to be, no, nothing affects me. But maybe it did. It's really is hard to put a finger on it. But off that though, I also know that, like, I'm in good form now, and I look forward to to competing a lot and moving into another fight as early as possible, and just I'm just plugging along, mate.
It's funny you reminded us now about all those questions, and we were the guys that oftentimes asking you those questions. Oh, is this going to be pressure and that? Looking back on it, that whole lead up to the fight and the insane amount of media, and obviously fighting in your hometown, did that? How did that weigh on you? Because I remember like Ronda Rousey, for example, like she spoke about, or she didn't really speak about it, but it seemed like doing all that crazy amount of media after that fight, she was kind of like, I'm not doing that, and I'm going to just focus sort of on training and stuff. Did that weigh on you at all? Just the insane lead up to the fight?
I don't think it weighed on me as much as just everything else, such as just like the last two fights in my home country fell through. I hadn't fought for so long. The last time I tried to fight, I had to go get rushed to hospital day of. Like, and what I'm saying is, like, I'm sure it did affect me, but I can't say how much. So it's just one of the, like, I guess where I'm leading with all this is just that conditions weren't ideal, but they never will be. They never will be. And that's not an excuse I'm using either, because that's just the game. You have to be prepared to deal with that. And I did. And I got in there, and, I took the fight to him, and I got clipped, and that's it. The rest is history.
I'm also wondering, sort of before we get off it, one of the other big talking points was you opened up about how after UFC 234, you sort of went through depression and anxiety. And I think that's something that you were going through long before that. You're speaking to us today, and you seem in a great mood. You seem like you're in a great mood in Grange TV. I guess I'm curious what sort of place you're in now compared to after 234. Is it anything similar, or are you in a better place because you got to fight?
Did you say I spoke about depression after 234, like the last fight?
After the Gastelum fight, you said that after that fight fell through, you sort of went through depression and anxiety, correct?
No, not really after that fight. It was after the second Romero fight that I kind of, had a bit of a spiral.
Okay. Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Yeah, because after the second Romero fight, it was obviously a very hard fight, which takes a toll on your body, which takes a toll on your mental, and I also got injured, and I really trying to train injured and having to be pushed back, having to push everything back because of your injury, and then come back into training and your rehab. It brings you down. It really brings you down. When I'm not training at my best, like I get down. But after Gastelum, it wasn't really too much of a downer, because I had gotten there at least. I was upset. I was gutted. It left a real sour taste in my mouth, but I was hungry. After that, and honestly, I trained my ass off for the easy fight, and I got to the easy fight, and although the results weren't what I wanted, it's I did all the right things leading in there. And that fight lit a fire in me. It's made me really, really hungry for the fight game again. And yeah, on the back of it, like I don't feel down or anything, because obviously I made sure I surrounded myself with good people before I was champ. But like my life's in perspective. I know what is important to me. I know that I'm doing the right things, and I know I'll get back there.
Could you compare this excitement to another point in your career when you felt this excited about the future and what's coming up? I mean, every time you're a champion and you're defending your title, I know there's some excitement there, but is there a point in your career where you sort of felt this pumped up and excited about the future before?
Yeah, after I beat Jacare. So it was like after I beat Jacare, it was kind of like a new block of my career, which was like top 5 opponents only, and then that sort of atmosphere, and now I feel like I'm there again, and I'm really, really excited.
I'm a bit of a sentimental guy, Rob, and I was watching the extra footage from the fight, and for some reason, I don't know why, but there's this one point after you lose where your wife runs up to the octagon and tells you that she loves you, and it's just such an emotional moment, and you could just see that point, like everything was okay for you because you knew you had your family there. I mean, what's it like having your family to help you through these kinds of times and be there for you? I mean, It's like for me when I was watching that. I don't know if you've seen the footage back because the UFC have just sort of released it, but it's almost like Adrian and Rocky or something. Run up to, it was very similar, man. What was that moment like for you when she ran up and said that to you? I mean,
to be honest, I'd like to think that my perspectives. That's my son trying to get in. I'd like to think my perspectives are pretty clear, and like a big thing for me is that I wouldn't. It's not about how much they help me get through, because obviously they help me get through those moments, of hardship. That's they're the best at it. That's what they like. They can do that. The biggest thing for me is that I wouldn't be there without them. Like I wouldn't have gotten that far. I wouldn't have made it into the octagon. I wouldn't have made it to the championship fights. I wouldn't have got the belt. Like my family is my drive. They're my everything.
Perfect timing, right? Your son's at the door and you're talking about how they drive. Couldn't be more poetic. That's all right. I was gonna say, just on a sort of side note, I know you're a big anime fan. Just wondering what you thought of Israel Adesanya when Bruce Buffer was introducing you guys. He sort of did put the homage to Death Note. Did you see that? And I'm wondering if there was a part of you that kind of had appreciation for that, just because you are such a big anime fan.
I didn't see it.
Are you familiar with Death Note?
Yeah, I am.
Well, that's basically what he did. He sort of wrote your name down, as the Death Note when Bruce Buffer was introducing you guys.
Yeah, no idea.
You know what the good thing with that is, though? Next time if you guys have a rematch, you can try and beat him to it and Death Note him before he Death Notes you. Just to get.
I get. Yeah, funny things like that don't matter.
Of course.
You're welcome. You're welcome for that corner advice, by the way, Rob. There's some Death Note counters from Submission Radio. Just quickly, though, right now it looks like it's going to be Costa versus Israel for the title. When you look at that fight, you've been in there with a guy like Israel. I don't know how much footage you've been able to see of Costa, but who do you think wins that fight? A lot of people sort of lean heavily towards Israel there.
It's hard to say. It's very hard to say. I think Israel's very good. He's very good at picking people apart, especially when he has the advantages in reach and length. The thing is, though, Costa's huge. Like, he's a big guy, and he's got chin, and he's very, very strong and powerful. And but he does fade off. It's hard to say. I can see both guys winning at different points. Like, Costa can certainly, if he gets in and lands one of his big hands on him, he's gonna do some damage. But I can also see Israel picking him apart for 5 rounds.
You've been the champion for quite some time. You've dealt with a lot of the stuff that we've spoken about earlier in this interview. If you could give one piece of advice to Israel now that he's the champion and how to sort of, from what you've learned, I know you guys have this rivalry, but there's
that's a bit sour, mate. That's a bit sour. We're not cool.
Okay. Well, what would be one piece of advice as the champ? What would be one piece of advice from you after experiencing that position for such a long time?
I don't know. Like,
buy the game, Doom.
I don't know.
I guess that's I'm curious. What do you think your road to the title looks like at this point?
Like the same way it was before. I just beat everybody in front of me.
It's interesting because next week me and Casper are flying up to New York, and Kelvin Gastelum is fighting Darren Till. And this matchup, it's a very interesting matchup. Darren Till, a lot of people believe that Kelvin Gastelum is a pretty tough sort of first fight in the division for him. Are you going to be watching that one closely? And who do you think wins that one? Do you think Kelvin Gastelum gets it done?
Yeah, certainly. I'm going to be watching it closely because they're very likely opponents in the near future. But I would have to say I'd have to lean towards Gastelum because I think he's a super underrated fighter in the middleweight division, but he's very sneaky in his approach to closing the distance and landing his strikes. He's quite quick. We'll have to see how Till makes the transition to middleweight. That's always a big question mark for me watching guys jump up. So yeah, I'd have to lean towards Gastelum at this point.
Is there a preference? Like, if one of these guys was your potential next opponent, is there one that excites you more than the other? I guess especially with Gastelum, because there is a bit more history there.
No, not really. Like, it's just whatever happens will happen. What will be, sort of thing.
Well, you're gonna.
Sorry,
Go on,
I was just gonna say we'll let you go in a second, Rob. I'm just wondering if you saw Gastelum's comments after UFC 243. I believe he said he was a bit disappointed, and he said that he would have dropped you like a sack of potatoes, if I'm reading quotes. And I'm just wondering if you saw that, and if you were surprised that he's saying that sort of after the fight as opposed to in the lead up when you guys were going to fight.
No, I'm not. I'm not surprised. The game and the culture around it is just that everybody just wants to shit on each other, and it's sad. It's sad that people have to try and shit on each other to move up in the world. Like, I'd like to think that I've shown you don't have to do that, but maybe he would have. We'll see. We're still quite young, both me and him, and I'm sure our paths will cross.
I was wondering. I mean, obviously, you just come off this fight with Israel, and Christmas is coming up. You got New Year's coming up. Is there an ideal sort of timeline for you to get back into the octagon, or is it a situation where you're still trying to figure out what's best?
No, we'll see what the division does. Like, I've got to see the other guys' fights conclude. But February, March next year, it looks pretty good.
Rob, we'll let you go in a second, but I'm just wondering, with UFC 244 around the corner, everyone's talking about this BMF title. I feel like you could be fighting for a title like that, the baddest motherfucker on the planet. I think that would sit nicely in the Whittaker household. And it'd be a funny contrast, right? The one guy to do it would be one of the nicest guys in the game. But I'm just wondering who you sort of have winning that fight if you were wearing your analyst hat for it. And I know you guys are going to do a great preview on Grange TV. And I know you guys are going to do a great reaction on Grange TV as well. But if we can get the jump, who do you have winning in that fight?
Over 5, I'd have to lean towards Nate. But I think Masvidal has a skill set to put work in. But I think Nate over 5 rounds can drag it to that uncomfortable place.
Well, we know you've got an exciting speaking tour coming up as well. Obviously, it's going through Brisbane, all the way through Australia, even New Zealand. So I know a lot of people are excited to grab tickets. And by the way, everybody could grab their tickets at robertwhittaker.co right now. Tell us, what could fans expect from this speaking tour, man? I feel like every time we have you on the show, we learn something new about you. There's always a new piece of wisdom from Mr. Whittaker. What can people expect from this thing?
I guess the biggest thing with my speaking tour is that I feel that I have a story, and I would like people to try and relate to it and take from it whatever they can. I've undergone a lot of hardships, obstacles, and hurdles like throughout my life, and I want to show that. Like, it happens to everybody. Like, these obstacles and hurdles they happen to everybody, no matter who you are. But I still managed to get a world title on the back of that. And I'm at a point where I've now lost the world title, and I get to do that again. In the hardships that I have to face on the back of that, and moving forward. And I think a lot of people can take something from it.
Last question, I promise we'll let you go. Just sort of on that, we said a couple, you've got a documentary team following you around. We said a couple of words on it, 243, and they sort of spoke about how the theme, like the movie, the doco isn't set because, they don't know the result of 243, but the general theme is kind of warrior and warrior spirit. What would you want your legacy to be? Because I feel like a lot of guys sort of talk about, being the greatest, being the champion, but I almost feel like you've sort of got a different legacy that you've got in mind about, like you mentioned, sort of overcoming adversity and things like that.
I want to be the best fighter ever, and it's pretty straightforward. I want to be the best fighter ever, and it's a journey, and I'm going to keep working towards that and chipping away at it.
Well, I cannot wait for this tour. Robert Whittaker Up Close and Personal kicks off on November 21st in Brisbane, goes all the way through to December 5th. Rob is going all over Australia, including 2 shows in Melbourne on the 27th and the 28th. You're even going to New Zealand as well. You can grab your tickets at robertwhittaker.co. And, of course, follow the man at Robert Whittaker MMA. Rob, I'm loving also all the social posts and stuff. It's great to get a look into your life. Of course, Grange TV, one of the funnest shows out there. you and Fab, and there's even a meme page, and he says he doesn't know who runs it. So there you go. there's some diehard fans out there. Of course, check that out, Rob. We love having you on the program. Can't wait to see what's next, and we can't wait for the speaking tour. Thank you so much for coming onto the program.
Thanks for having me, guys, as always.